Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. What if I told you even the tiniest patio, porch, or balcony could be bursting with flowers all summer long? Well, in today's video, I'm going to bring you along as I plant up my GreenStalk Vertical Planter. I have chosen some gorgeous calibrachoa or million bells that are going to go in here and bring some major flower power to this little tiny back patio. I'll be sure to show you exactly how to assemble your vertical planter, how to fill it and choose the right kind of potting soil, how to fertilize your plants, as well as how often you should water and how to water in something that's designed just like this. So for a lot of you out there, spring frost have ended and now you can get started in your garden. You can really start to get your annuals outside, hot weather crops, things like that. And it's just my favorite time of year, I must say. So we're going to head to the greenhouse like we've been doing in many of my other videos recently so that I can bring you in there and grab the beautiful calibrachoa I have selected for this little project today. So before I take you in the greenhouse and show you the beautiful flowers that are going to go in my vertical planter, I'm going to invite everybody to please like and subscribe to my channel. Those of you that are already subscribing, thank you so much for coming along with this mid-Missouri gardener. I'm just your average home gardener who absolutely has a passion for gardening. I hope that my videos will connect with those of you who are, trying your hand at gardening maybe for the first time, or you're an experienced gardener and you just want some inspiration. All right, so I've made it inside the greenhouse, and those of you wonderful people who have been following my channel and really been watching my most recent videos, I've been taking you in this greenhouse every single time because this is where I have been storing all the plants I bought, all the plants I've started from seed, and all my veggies and herbs that are going to go out in the raised bed garden. And it should look different. It should look less full. Now, if you've never seen my videos recently, you're probably thinking, Belle, are you crazy? You have a million plants in there. And I do have a lot of plants in here still. However, this top shelf over here is where I'm currently storing all my empties. Not empty, beverage cans, but my empty Proven Winners annuals cans, and not all Proven Winner plants. But this represents a lot of fun planting that I've been having out in the garden. So if you haven't seen my recent videos, there's a lot to see, a lot of beautiful varieties of tried and true plants that you might want to check out. So, all right, let's talk about what I selected for this project. I'm only going to be planting up 3 tiers. I'll talk more about the specifics of that planter later. It's actually a 5-tier, but as you can see, I purchased so many plants this year that I thought, you know what, Belle, you cannot do a 5-tier planter. You have enough beauty going on. You got to dial it back a little bit. And also, when we're sitting out on that little patio, I didn't want this planter being so tall that you couldn't see the person sitting next to you. I want it to be a better scale, and I think what I've decided is going to work. Okay, so that's my rationale for only using 3 tiers. Save money, not so many plants, and it's a better fit for the space. All right, here's what's going in. Calibrachoa. Let me just say first off, calibrachoa, or better known as million bells, I haven't grown a lot of it in my gardening journey, so I'm really going to try to embrace it this year. Calibrachoa in general is best planted in containers. They do not do well in the ground. They don't like wet feet, and so you want a super light, fluffy potting soil so that it holds on to enough moisture to help your plant, but it also drains well. You want to let calibrachoa not really dry out a lot, but maybe it's okay if they get a little bit on the drier side, so you might not have to water these quite as often as you would something like my beloved Supertunia petunias. These are water hogs. Calibrachoa, even though they look just like a petunia, they're not. They don't require as much water. All right, so we'll talk about watering and how to use it, the special watering system in that vertical planter in a little bit. All right, so what varieties? All right, this is going on the bottom tier. This is just called Deep Blue. So that's, I don't know, it's kind of a no name, but it is deep blue, deep purple with a yellow throat. I'll try to come in really close so I hope you can see how precious those flowers are. So that's the bottom tier. Second tier, oh my goodness, look at that. This is called Pink Kiss, aptly named. Pretty Barbie pink with hot pink and a yellow throat. And on the top, I have chosen to plant up this variety. Isn't that stunning? Let me grab the tag. What is this cutie called? This is called Candy Shop Grape Splash. And if you look at the flowers, some of them look like they've been splattered with grape coloration, and some of them are more, not really striped. But I just think this combination is gonna be some serious flower power for that back patio. All right, let's get to going. I'm gonna grab these trays, get them over there on the patio, and then I'm gonna show you all a little bit more about that vertical planter, how it's designed, and we're gonna get to planting. So we don't need hardly anything for this really simple project in terms of supplies or materials. So what are we gonna need? We are going to need high quality potting soil, light, fluffy, full of nutrition for fast growing annual plants. This particular potting soil is not available commercially. I picked it up at a local nursery, private nursery. I asked them what they use for their gorgeous containers. And she said, well, we use such and such. It's for commercial growers. However, we sell it. I said, yes, please. And so I came home with these gigantic bags, and I'm down to this one and maybe half of another one. I've done so much planting up. So fingers crossed, this great experiment's gonna work well for me this year. Typically, I like Pro Mix. That's what I typically put in all my containers and hanging baskets, etc. But I thought, you know what, let's switch it up and see how this works, because I admire this greenhouse grower so much. I mean, their things are spectacular, and that's what they use. So I thought, well, why not? The price wasn't too bad either. But regardless, find a high quality, light and fluffy potting soil mix. Not topsoil, not garden soil, not raised bed mix. Consider this just like you would on any hanging basket. You need something that holds the water a little bit, provides a lot of aeration and fluffiness for those roots to be healthy and not waterlogged. Especially calibrachoa would never do well in heavy, dense soil. Never, never. So really important. All right, so soil, the planter, maybe my hori-hori, some garden gloves, and of course, when you are growing annuals, if you want them to pump out flowers all season long and look as beautiful in August as they do in early June, if you're not fertilizing your flowering annuals, you're really limiting their potential. And so I can't talk about fertilizing enough. I think I see a little fly on the camera. I don't know if you all can see it. Okay, did it fly away? Fly, did you fly away? I don't know. Okay, anyways, so I am going to put in each planting hole this Proven Winners continuous slow release plant food. And I do this, and I've done this so far for the last couple of weeks. Anytime I put them in a pot, in a hole, etc., a scoop of this is going to go in. This is slow release. It's heat activated, so the hotter the soil gets, the more it's going to release, and it's going to feed my plants fairly well for about 3 months. However, Fertilizer Friday happens throughout my garden. Any big flowering annuals are going to get a drink, a gourmet drink, I like to call it, every Friday with a water-soluble fertilizer. You just mix in your watering can, or if you have a lot to water like I do, I have an attachment. I put the granular stuff in it. When the hose runs, it picks up that fertilizer and dilutes it and sprays it on my plants. So anyhow, Fertilizer Friday, everybody, it really makes a massive difference for your beautiful plants. All right, what else do I want to make sure I share? I think that's it. Okay, let's talk about this amazing planter. Oh my goodness, y'all. I wish they had these when I was a new gardener many, many years ago. My husband and I had a sweet little apartment and a tiny little back concrete patio, maybe as big as this little concrete pad, maybe not. And I could have grown so many more things, but instead I had to use 5-gallon buckets to grow flowers and peppers and tomatoes in, and it worked okay. But man, oh man, if they had had something like this, you better believe I would have invested, because this particular GreenStalk vertical planter model actually comes with 5 tiers. I will make sure, for any of you that have never seen these or heard of these, I'll put a link to their website in the description below, so you can go online and check these out. They didn't provide this. I bought this with my own money. They're not sponsoring this video, but I share with you all the products that I use that for me in my Zone 6 garden have just worked so well, and I just really love this product. So that's why I'm sharing it with you today. Each tier has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 wells for plants. So you can grow in the five stacker 30 plants. But as I mentioned, in the greenhouse, instead of having the planter be this high and sitting here in between these 2 little chairs that face our lovely pond, you know, that doesn't make conversation very easy, and it just felt out of scale. So my very smart husband said, well, you know, have you considered just taking a few tiers off and having a smaller planter? And I'm like, duh, thank you. So he always thinks of things that I don't necessarily consider. So I'm only using 3, because I'm only going to put 3 plants in each tier, even though there are pockets for 6 plants. Because of the growth habit of calibrachoa, the recommendation by other GreenStalk growers is plant every other pocket. And as it comes up and over, it will spread and cover most of the planter by the end of the summer. So fewer plants saves me money. Now that I've taken the tiers apart, I do want to show you this special rotating base. I think this is considered an accessory. I think you have to purchase it separate. I'm not really sure, but I think so. You want to definitely get this little disc that rotates, because you're going to probably, depending upon where you place your vertical planter, you're going to want to spin it so that all the plants get the equal amount of sunshine. And so I'll come in here probably every couple days and do a 180 turn and just do that throughout the summer. And this really does spin. After all these are filled with soil and plants, it's heavy enough and it rotates really well. So I've just got the 3 levels here that I need to fill up with soil and the plants, and then I'm going to position this back in the right spot between the chairs, a little further back towards the house. And then once these are all potted up, I will stack it up, and I'll show you how you have to lock in each level with each other so that it doesn't tip. All right, I pulled the camera in nice and tight, so I hope you all can see the process. So first of all, there's a hole here, and when you're filling it with soil, if you could plug the hole, or at least a little bit, that would be, you know, wonderful. It's not necessary, absolutely, and even though my little bamboo stick here is going to plug it entirely, you know, I won't end up getting a bunch of soil down here and all over the place. So that's the idea. So, you know, so if you get one of these, you might want to plug it up with something just to take care of that. So I'm just going to fill it up. And what's super important here is eventually, at the very end, it's important to fill each level, each tier, all the way to the top. Very important. And it even says, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, it says fill soil to the top, literally to the top. Because as you know, soil settles, especially light and fluffy soil. It settles out each time it's watered until it's, you know, it's been in there a while. And so that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Okay, so let me just fill it with soil, and then I'm going to talk to you about the way I like to position the plants in the pockets. All right, so I haven't filled it up completely full yet because I want to show you my trick. So I am going to, in 3 of the 6 spots, I'm going to pull some soil up, and I'm going to take my sweet deep blue calibrachoa, and I'm going to lay it sort of on its side, but up high where the top of this is at the top of the container. And then I'm going to use soil from the rest of it to backfill. But before I do that, I want to make sure I've put in some slow release fertilizer in that spot. So let me Do not forget, we just talked about how important it is to fertilize your annual flowers because they are hungry. And if you want them to give you flower power all summer, they need to be fed for sure. So I hope that's showing on the camera for you all. So it's perched out because it's going to grow up and over the edge and trail. So let me put another one over here. So I'm going to skip. Every other one's going to get a plant. Again, fertilizer. Right by the root ball. Pop this baby in place, and again, backfill all the way around that root ball to get it snugged in. Skipping, last one. Over here, it's going to get a plant, but first, slow release plant food. All right, where's my last little deep blue one? There it is. I just adore this color. Just so darn vibrant and pretty. I have a very sweet person in my life that purple is her favorite color. So if you're watching this, you know who you are. I hope you like my choice for this combo. And the next time you come over to the house, we're going to sit right here on this patio together and enjoy a cold beverage and enjoy these adorable flowers. All right, so every other one is planted, but now I must fill up the whole thing up to the top of soil, even though I don't have plants in 3 of them, because all the soil in place will lock the plants into place, but it'll also hold on to moisture. And you know, our dog days of summer here in mid-Missouri, I mean, we get heat indexes over 100 quite easily. And so the bigger the pot, the more soil, the better it will retain moisture for our thirsty plants all throughout the summer. Now, could I pot up every single one of these 6? 100%, absolutely could. But these plants, I'm hoping, are going to get large enough that it's not going to be necessary. I'm afraid if I were to plant every single one of these pots, by the time they grew in, they would sort of compete and it would be a jumble. But you know, you guys know me. I don't overplant my pots. I let nature take its course. I exercise patience and watch them fill in, and that way I can spread my gardening budget much further throughout my garden because I let the plants get to their mature size. I just don't, for me, want to overplant. But I know that that's not the trend. I know that you guys watch other videos and they would like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not planting up that entire thing, you know. But for me, it works. All right. Everybody's different. There's no one right way to do any of this. All right, now that I've got this full, I am not going to water it because I have to lift this up and put it on that spinner and then fill up the rest of them and stack them. I will only water this in. I'll show you how that works. I won't water these plants in until all 3 stacks are snapped in place, and I'll show you the special way that these water each of the tiers. All right. So that's it. So I'm going to work on the other 2 tiers, and then I'll show you how to assemble it. All right, so as you probably noticed, I ran out of soil, and I want to let you know how much it took. So I've got these two completely planted and full. This is almost full. I mean, I need maybe this much more soil, but I did end up using, for these 3 tiers, 3 cubic feet of soil. If you go on the GreenStalk Vertical Planter website, I am sure that you can look it up and they'll tell you how much total soil you need based on, you know, each tier. So yeah, so that's it. So I ran back to the greenhouse because I've got more of that great potting soil in one of my Rubbermaid tubs. All right, let me finish up planting the top tier, and then I'll bring the camera nice and close for you all and show you how important it is to make sure you stack them correctly so they're secure, so there will be no tipping, and yeah, so that's all there is left. Okay, got each tier planted, and you can see on that close-up how they're snugged in. You want to position your plants right towards the edge like I did on an angle like that, so they're going to spill over. And nice topped off soil. Okay, next step, every tier has to have this water basin. Let me get out so I'm not making a shadow. So each tier, you have to position this in the center, and what is critical is at the bottom of this vessel that's going to hold water, there are little holes. Each one of these 6 holes must line up with each of the 6 pockets. That is a very important consideration, all right? That looks pretty good to me. All right, because the water will fill up in here and then it will drip, and you want it to feed the individual exterior pockets. So we've got the deep blue on the bottom, and then we're gonna lift up the next tier with this adorable pink. And I'm gonna try to alternate a little bit as I position it. And each of the tiers has feet that must attach to the bottom rung really well for stability. And when I put the top tier on, I'm going to bring the camera in really close on the side so you can see what I'm talking about. But this one also needs me to put the water vessel in there for irrigation. So here I am. I'm going to line up the holes in the bottom directly in line with the individual pocket. Press it down. Looks good. Final tier. Let me change the camera angle for you all so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I hope I've got the camera nice and close and down low, because what's going to happen is the top tier, you're going to see me place it, and the little feet from each tier has to snap over these spots right there. So let's see if I can do it the right way so that it's nice and secure, so nothing tips over at all in high winds this summer. Okay, so here's my final grape splash tier. I'm going to position it, I think, let's see, position it like this. I'm not sure. Let me decide here what makes the most sense. Yeah. Okay. So I want to get my finger here and show you. Do you see how? All right. There. That's the perfect shot of what I'm talking about. Let me move these sweet little flowers to the side. These feet have to snug in over how that goes, that indentation. And now you want to check all of the feet to make sure they're seated, and they are in place. All right, next let me show you how to water this. So once you get to the top tier, you're not going to use this. All right, so I'll put this in storage with the other tiers I took off. What you're going to use is the main watering tier. This will fit right on the top, and we're going to fill this all the way to the top until it won't fill anymore. And what happens, and when I get ready to fill it, it'll make more sense when I put the water in. It's going to fill up. Water is going to go down this center tube that goes all the way down through and fill up each of those little gray watering vessels, and then each of the gray watering vessels will water each individual tier. Again, this amazing design, I have to make sure that I line this up with this and snap it in place so it's nice and secure. So let me line it up. Snap, push. I'm going to go around and make sure, each one of these is in the right spot. All right, I need to fill this top basin with water. And again, you'll notice there's that hole in the center. That hole goes from the top to the very bottom tier. You'll almost see sort of a whirlpool effect. You see how it's spinning? Yeah, as it goes down and starts to feed the other pockets. So you're just going to hold your watering wand here and let it do its thing until this top vessel is all the way full. I'm trying to get the shadows out so you all have a chance to see. So do you see how it's pouring out the bottom? That means that it has made its way all the way to the bottom tier. So that's what you're going to look for when you do your regular watering. However, because this is the very first time filling this with fresh, dry potting soil, I am going to come around to settle everything in, and I'm going to hand water each pot or each pocket, even the ones that don't have any water in them, just to settle in the soil and to get it started off nicely. Well, now that I've got my little vertical planter all potted up with these adorable calibrachoa, I think it's time to break it in and see and have a seed and just enjoy and be dreaming about how these plants are just going to add so much interest and color to this little tiny patio. I appreciate you all hanging out with me today and coming along to see how you might invest in a vertical planter. It doesn't have to be a GreenStalk, but whenever I think about me using this, and I've used this, I think I've had it, this is my third year maybe, I think about the real estate phrase, if you can't build out, build up. So if you find in your garden that you only have a tiny patio, balcony, or porch, or just, you want to dip your toe into a little bit of container gardening, consider a vertical planter like this. Again, today I chose only to use 3/6/9 of the available pockets. Again, this particular model has 2 other tiers, but when I'm sitting here with a friend or a family member, just enjoying nature and enjoying all the beauty of the garden, I want to be able to see over the top and maybe give them a cheer. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.